Hello there everybody, Jordan back again with another review, and this is going to be for the 2026 film Thrash, and this is directed by Tommy Wakola and stars Jeetman Hansu, Phoebe Denver and Whitney Peake. When a Category 5 hurricane devastates and floods a coastal town, it brings with it many hungry sharks. Well, we get shark movies every year, don't we? I've reviewed quite a few of them on this channel. They are very saturated. It's a very saturated subgenre where people are just making them left, right and centre. I mean, most of them aren't very good, are they? But when I seen the trailer for this, and it was coming straight to Netflix, and it looked like it had really good production value, had Tommy Wakola, the director of Violent Night and Dead Snow, and it was like a hurricane that's going to devastate this town with the sharks coming towards it. I thought, you know what? That looks like it could be pretty good, and just be a turn your brain off and enjoy it type of film. So let's get into it. And even though it is an oversaturated subgenre and we get many shark movies, I do like the way we are finding new ways to do a little bit of a twist on shark movies. And I don't mean them ridiculous ones where we have sharks flying in the sky and everything. That is low budget B-movie level silliness, isn't it? That is just, that's going to be for some people, definitely not for me. But what I mean by that is when we're doing well-made shark movies like Dangerous Animals, where you've got a serial killer using sharks to when he kidnaps women and kill them. I mean, that is a good way of sort of shaking up the subgenre a little bit. And I like the way Thrash does that as well, with this being a disaster movie that brings the sharks to this little town that's been decimated there, even though it does borrow heavily from the movie Crawl. Just instead of alligators, we've got sharks. But the disaster angle for this movie works really well. They don't hold back at all. They're throwing you straight in. Actually, from the off, we know this huge hurricane is coming. And when this town gets flooded because of the hurricane, houses are floating down the street. You know, people are trapped in cars with the water rising and everything like that. Just cars are thrown down the street, left, right, and center. It really does feel like a huge disaster and throws you right in there of how dangerous this damn thing is. It's all filmed and shot very well as well. Very nice high production value. I believe this was a Sony movie that was actually going to come to cinemas until Netflix bought it. You can kind of get a sense of that and that it was going to be a cinema movie. But I thought this was all done pretty well actually, and just made me so happy that I don't live in one of these places where a huge hurricane like this could probably hit at some time. And this movie takes the different perspectives of different characters, and I really liked how it done that. We see certain people in certain situations who aren't really connected to each other. We've got these little trio of siblings who are orphaned to these horrible people, and you really feel bad for them because these foster parents are just assholes. Basically, they're feeding them bread while they're eating steaks and everything, hiding it from them, and they've got the best food and everything. They're just doing it so they can get money. So you really get on the side of them siblings, and as the movie plays out, they have to work together, you know, and come together as a family there to try and escape the situation they find themselves in. We've got this pregnant woman who is 9 months pregnant, about to give birth at the worst possible time, and we've got this other woman who is basically just, you know, a young single female now because she lives with her mother, but her mother recently passed, so she's kind of got to fend for herself and trying to find her way in life. And you know, she needs food for the fridge, so she decides to go down the shop even though the storm's hitting. So the characters who you kind of get behind, really, you want the outcome to be good for them because they're kind of down on their luck straight away there. But I really like how the movie bounces from each one just to tell all these different little stories there and give their perspectives of how this hurricane has hit and devastated them, but also as they have to take on these sharks in many different ways. But if the hurricane wasn't bad enough, yes, we do have these sharks that are implemented to make this situation even worse and even harder for these characters to survive and get away from. And because the movie establishes its characters to be quite likable very early on in the first 20-30 minutes here, before the sharks even enter the fray, you really do care about them. You want them to get out of these situations, and it does lead to some very edge of your seat, heart in your mouth moments here, where characters are kind of trapped and another character's got to go and save this character by climbing across a tree branch, but if she falls, from her balance, she'd be ripped apart by these sharks. We've got characters who've got to sort of kind of survive on top of a kitchen workshop while these sharks roam the house because the kitchen's getting flooded. It's always fun to see these sharks kind of swimming into basements or going between the washing machine or whatever. As funny as that sounds, it really, if they get off this kitchen workshop, they're dead, basically. So, yeah, it really does have some situations here where you're like, clenching your fists a little bit, hoping that nothing goes wrong for these characters who, like I said, I did personally really liked from the off. And the sharks in this movie are quite cool too. They're little bastards, basically. They are described in this film as the hyenas of the ocean because these are bull sharks who hunt in packs. So we just have many of these things just roaming around this little coastal town that's been flooded, basically. And they rip people apart in this movie. Like, I wouldn't say the movie is overly gory, but there are limbs being torn off. There's people being torn to pieces. There's blood, just everywhere, basically. I mean, nothing too out there, nothing too drastic. We've seen a lot of it in shark movies before, but it still does the job, basically. And it feels like the sharks from Deep Blue Sea a little bit. If you enter the water for at least 1 second, that's it. So the water might as well be your death, basically, if you're going in there. But I do like how characters come up with little different plans as we learn about these sharks to basically try and avoid them and, have to get creative in order to get out their way around the sharks, basically. And it kind of does make sense when it explains things and how the characters are implementing these little ideas there. So, yeah, they've kind of got to use their brain and be smart to outsmart these very smart sharks. Right, try saying that after 10 pints. However, guys, I do have a few little negatives with this movie. It's far from perfect, and one of them, even though this movie is very nicely paced, it's less than 90 minutes. I think it's like 86 minutes long. The movie flew by, but even though it did, in that middle section there, or even more in the third act as well, the movie does stagnate a little bit with what our characters are doing. So we've basically got a bunch of characters just stuck in one place. There's another character who's looking after the pregnant woman who kind of just stuck in one place. So when we do get some of these scenarios where they get themselves into a safe situation, kind of feels like they never ever really get out of it until, the last kind of 10 minutes there where it picks up again. I do feel like the middle portion of the film and towards the latter half kind of just feels quite repetitive, unfortunately. It's still fun to watch. It's still tension, a lot of tension there and, dangerous moments. But it does feel a little bit the same after a very great, first half an hour with all of the disaster that happens there. Unfortunately, I wish they would have come up with a few more, different ways of implementing stuff to do for these characters, basically. And Deepman Hansu, who is a great actor, is kind of wasted here. It's a good performance every time he's on screen. He always puts a good performance in for me personally. But he's just not really given anything to do apart from basically give us exposition about these sharks, how they work, because he's a shark expert. He kind of explains what disaster and what hurricane is coming to the town and what these sharks are capable of, really. That's basically all he is. He's kind of just looking for his niece, but for most of the movie, that's him just traveling around looking for her, explaining things. So I wish they give him more to do. I mean, he needs more starring roles where he is given so much more, stuff to do on screen, basically, instead of just floating around on this boat with some dialogue. Also, this movie touches on that there may be a great white shark amongst these bull sharks floating around that they've been tracking for years. And I really, really wish they'd done something more with that. The movie kind of just flitters out towards the end there. It doesn't really have a great ending. And I think we could have done so much more with this great white shark that was sort of roaming the town there and wrapped up the character arcs as well. The accumulation of the movie isn't great. And for such a short film, with another 10 minutes of hate, this movie, I mean, yeah, it just kind of peters out there, unfortunately. And I would have really liked to see something more with this great white shark, because when we see it on camera, amongst, like the other sharks, it looks great. I mean, I don't think the CGI here is bad or anything, and it just looks like a badass, basically. But yeah, it doesn't really go anywhere with that great white, unfortunately. But like I said, guys, as well, with the character arcs, I wish they would have done more, because I got invested in them from very early on. And it kind of just feels like they didn't have an end story there. I mean, I know it's all taking place over a few hours, but maybe we could have just got a little bit more to tie it all together. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now, guys. I'm going to give Thrash a 6.5 out of 10. Pretty decent shark movie. I've actually really liked the last two Netflix movies that I've seen, War Machine and this, so hopefully they can keep it up a little bit. Maybe some better quality, but 6.5 isn't bad for a movie that we just see so much of in a subgenre that just is constantly churning out these types of films. Okay, guys, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, a fun fact for Thrash is that this movie actually takes place in South Carolina, but it was actually filmed in Melbourne, Australia. Okay, guys, hope you all enjoyed this review. If you want more 2026 movie reviews, I'll leave them in the link down below, along with my other shark movie reviews. I've actually reviewed Jaws on this channel, believe it or not, in all spoiler fashion. So if you want to go and check that out, that'll be down below as well. If horror is your sort of thing, please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. It really helped me out, guys. Thanks so much. You all take care, and I'll see you all in the next video.